Hi everybody, welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Well, if you picked up Tuesday's paper on the front page, you would have seen this lady's photo plastered all across it. Talk about Libby Hopwood, of course, one of the South Australia's great jockeys. Had a tragic accident back in October in Murray Bridge. She joins us now. Libby, how are you?
Good, thanks for having me.
So I pick up the paper Tuesday after having a chat with you on Monday, and you don't tell me anything about what's happening in your world. So the paper reads, Libby may never ride again. Can you take us through that?
I'm hoping the paper has been a little bit sensationalised because I'm planning to get back to riding, but essentially the story is that I need to pass a concussion test which depicts my baseline prior to falling off, and the doctors have come to the conclusion that 10 months on I may not improve anymore and I may not actually beat that test. So we're looking at alternative testing now to determine whether I am fit to get back to race riding, carrying the permanent damage that I have, or whether the stewards need to come up with their sort of duty of care of if they're going to allow me back.
Do you sense the duty of care might be going too far?
Well, interestingly enough, I read an article not long ago about a nanny state, but I do understand where they're coming from because it's obviously a dangerous sport, but we go out there all the time knowing the risks, and I could have been completely fine, or I was completely fine in this fall and came out with the damage that I've got, and I could go out there tomorrow and fall off with the damage that I've got and have no issues at all, and somebody that could be completely healthy could be worse off than what I am.
All right, 10 months, it seems a short time, and we go back to October 15th, Murray Bridge, the fall happens and it's tragic. Did you, knowing you've obviously got hindsight, that the condition that you're in, do you think you're ahead of where you thought you would be at this time?
Yes, I think I've improved quite quickly. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I don't drink and I don't smoke, and they did actually warn me when I hit my head to not have any sort of alcohol. So I think I have improved a lot. There's still a few little things that need tweaking, but I think I can tweak them back at track work. So I just desperately want to get back to track work and get my brain working on a horse again and get back in the saddle.
So, Libby, you think yourself you can get back in the saddle today? You could go down to the track and ride today and ride confidently and as good as what you did pre-October last year. The concussion test that you're having, you're saying you pass all the balance tests, you pass everything to go with it except for
the memory.
Do you understand how that affects your riding and why that should be an issue to keep you out of the saddle?
That's what I'm arguing currently, is that we don't need our memory to ride with. We go in circles. I can't get lost, so it's nothing.
Because a lot of times you forget what the trainer says by the time you get to the gates, don't you? So.
But then you go plan B and you go by your rider's instinct, which is what they're putting me on for. But their theory behind failing the memory is it denotes that there is some damage to my brain. But we knew that was going to happen. So now the stewards actually said to me in a meeting early days that they haven't had injuries like this and people come back from injuries like this, so I need to be patient whilst they work out which route they want to take.
Yeah.
It's good information to have though, isn't it? Because when you forget something now, I'm just going to say I fell off a horse.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. So it is useful information to have. But you've had more publicity for falling off the horse than you've had the stellar riding career that you've had prior to falling off the horse. Do you find that a little frustrating?
I do, but it's obviously understandable because it was a tragic fall and we did lose Caitlin. But yeah, it's something that is in the forefront of every racing person's mind, especially in South Australia. Her loss has affected everybody, so I can understand whilst it's put out there because it was such a tragedy. It's one day I will be in the paper for riding a treble in town instead. Do
you think that's why they're cautious though? I mean, the tragic loss of Caitlin, do you think that that's added more to making sure now that everybody's okay?
Certainly. I think things have changed a little bit since then, and we always know that there's a risk in racing, but you almost take it for granted that you're going to be okay, and you don't really think about it. And to lose someone so young over a freak accident was a kick in the face.
How many times have you fallen off a horse before that?
Oh, I can't remember. If you don't
remember? Oh, well, you failed the test. Okay.
If you're not falling off, you're not trying hard enough, essentially. So, but luckily, I'm bottom heavy, so I generally just land on my bum and walk away.
Yeah. Have you ridden since? Have you ridden in the last 10 months?
I have. I've been riding. My first horse was a friend's father's horse, actually. He was a 21-year-old Western horse, so that was a bit different. And then I've been riding a few of Anthony Thomas's horse, who's a prominent show jumper in South Australia. So I got to ride the 17-year-old World Cup horse, who I barely got to trot. And I thought, he's old, he needs his retirement. Yeah. And I saw him compete on the weekend after, and he galloped the course and flew it and beat everybody. So obviously he was being kind to me.
You know, they talk about, we saw it just recently, Mick Fanning was attacked by a white pointer shark surfing, and then he got back on the board and started surfing. I'm just interested, the first time you got back on a horse after it happened? Was there any fear or was it excitement? I'm glad to be back. What was it?
The first time was excitement and I loved it. And then the second time I didn't know I felt any different. But after a couple of weeks of riding, there was one day where I felt truly comfortable. And it was only at that point that I'd realised that I was actually feeling a little bit timid. And I didn't even realise because it's not something that I recognise with and associate with. But on that one ride, I felt confident. I was like, oh, hang on, maybe I wasn't right before. But
racing it's hard for people to understand the love that racing people have, whether it's harness racing or racing. So you want to get back in the saddle as quickly as you can. You're on work cover now, not earning anywhere near the capacity that you could earn as a successful jockey. But then there's the other scale as well, isn't there? The ones that get up at 4:30 in the morning and might get there 3 or 4 rides a week.
Yeah.
The love of horses is obviously ingrained into you. How do you cope with not going to the races now and riding in your track work, etc.?
It is hard in the sense that I miss the horses, but at the same time I don't really like being around the races if I'm not riding because I get a little bit jealous that I'm not out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, horses are a love. I have my own horse and I do venture down to the races to support my favourites. But it's just not quite the same.
It sounds really normal to someone that's not a punter. I go down and cheer for the horses, but I don't like the jockeys.
Yeah.
I'm trying to embrace you on this, Liv, but I'm not sure you're going to be much to work with.
The other part is, sorry mate, is we race regularly, not as much as we do in Victoria. And fatigue must become a part of this when you travel down to Bordertown, then the next day you're riding work at 4:30, then you're off to Mario Bridge or Strathalbyn, then you're back into the city. Hong Kong, they have a 5-week break every year where everyone goes away and either rides somewhere else, has a break, does whatever. Do you think that could be like a 2-week break would be a good thing in Adelaide, or that just can't happen? Or
on behalf of jockeys everywhere, I'm saying yes.
Yeah.
But horses still need to get fed, so it doesn't matter if the jockeys get to go away, the trainers will still be stuck there, a lot of the stable hands will still be stuck there because jockeys can take a day off, and it obviously is hard, and a 2-week break would help because we don't have to worry about other jockeys stealing our horses as such.
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of a break. The only ones that would really benefit would be the jockeys. But as a jockey, I'm saying I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Do the jockeys have a genuine fear that another jockey may take their ride?
Every day.
Yeah. That's your whole career is trying to get a good horse and trying to keep that horse and trying to keep all the other jockeys off it. I was going to say sharks for a second, but...
How do you steal them?
Well, yeah, there's obviously given a chance. When you get given the chance, it's when you really need to step up. So if another jockey might get suspended and they come to you because the other jockey can't actually ride, then hopefully you can win on it. And generally the trainers will say, look, I can't take a winning jockey off, but you've got to work hard. If you lob at the stables first thing every morning, it's basically everything you do is trying to find the next good horse and trying to keep it with both hands. Do
all jockeys have managers now, or is it the top echelon, or?
No, it's whoever really wants one, really. It's easier in Adelaide to take your own rides because, like you said, we don't race as much as Victoria. But to be honest, having a manager's excellent because when you're ringing for rides, you ring at 12 o'clock every day and you're ringing every trainer and every horse that you've ridden, and then you're trying to get other horses that you want to ride. And after a certain amount of no's, you get very sick of it and you're like, well, I'll be fine. I'll just have 3 horses for the meeting. No worries.
Yeah.
Libby, if it all runs to plan, if everything was going the way you wanted it right now, and don't say tomorrow, when do you think you could be back in the saddle riding?
Well, I'm booked in to see a neurologist in a couple of weeks if he can fit me in because they've had a cancellation. So hopefully he can fit me in within a couple of weeks. And then I'm back to the TRSA's doctor to see how he assesses what those tests show. And then hopefully I'll be back at work maybe realistically, hopefully within 2 weeks. But I don't want to get back to work and just start racing. I want to get back to work, and the doctor spoke to me about coming back on modified duties, perhaps riding 3 a morning because I do have fatigue issues when I'm using my head in different environments. So I just need to build up the fatigue issues, build up with riding horses again, and then work back to getting to trials and then finally to races. So it's going to be a long process just to get back to racing.
Before you got injured, how many horses would you ride in a morning? What would be a morning ride for you?
An average morning at Mario Bridge was 15 a morning.
15 horses a morning? And now you've got to ease back in. What will we be easing in? 3, 4?
Yeah, we're aiming at 3 a morning.
Okay. All right. Still have to get up at the same time? Still have to do all the dirty work?
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully I can come in at 7.
That's what I'm thinking. If I have the last 3 rides of the morning, that would be great. Because that will help me with my fatigue. Now, Liv, you did talk about not being able to work, not working at the moment, and one of the areas you're talking about breaking into is the media. So I think it's time. We're going to introduce Libby Hopwood. Libby is going to read the sporting news that's happening this weekend. Libby, what have you got for us?
Well, the Crows are just outside the top 8 on the ladder thanks to a convincing 36-point win over the Tigers here last week. So they're heading into Saturday's game at Etihad confident against the Bombers. Port, however, have had a slower start to the season. Currently ranked 12th, they're taking on the Giants this Saturday in town. But with a win, they could jump a few spots on the ladder. The captain, Travis Boak, says the club has been working hard on maintaining their consistency of intensity and execution in an effort to keep their finals hopes alive. Locally, round 17 of the SANFL kicks off on Thursday with Norwood v North Adelaide at Coopers. Friday, Glenelg take on Port Adelaide at Glitterroll. And the weekend brings South Adelaide and West Adelaide to Hickenbotham on Saturday, followed by the top of the ladder Eagles to face Adelaide on Sunday. On the weekend, round 28 of the FFSA State League has a busy schedule. Just the one game on Friday with Cove FC on Adelaide Hills, but Saturday has 7 matches all over the city. We'll start with the top of the ladder leaders. Cumberland United take on Gawler, Sturt Lions and Adelaide Olympic, Western Strikers v Eastern United, Adelaide United and Salisbury, the Seaford Rangers take on Playford, Adelaide Cobras and Adelaide Victory, and finally Noarlunga United face the Northern Demons. The Bledisloe Cup is here again and it's in full swing with the second game on Saturday in Auckland. Now, New Zealand has won the Cup the past 12 times in a row, but with Australia's first win over the All Blacks since 2011 last week, hopefully it'll be lucky 13 for Australia this year. The Netball World Cup is also underway and the final will air at 3:20 on Sunday. I hope the Aussie Diamonds can repeat last year and remain the reigning world champs. After all, it's definitely been left up to the girls to salvage a bit of Australia's pride after such a shocking Ashes display. I thought perhaps the Diamonds captain Laura Geist should have a chat to Clarkey, but considering the news on Sunday that Pup has confirmed he is going to retire from Test cricket after the 5th match, it seems her pep talk might have come a bit too late. With an Ashes average of just 16.7, let's hope the captain can recapture some of his youthful form and end on a higher note. With a career spanning almost 11 years, with half of them as captain, let's hope he's remembered not only for this tour. There's a saying around in racing that seems to suit this situation. It's that people only remember your last bad ride. Pup has certainly led Australia to many victories and is a player deserving to be remembered for his many merits, like scoring a heroic 161 not out in Cape Town with a broken shoulder. I think he deserves respect for stepping aside as captain, even though he might have been pushed, and admitting that as captain, he certainly hasn't led his team from the front this series. Interestingly enough, Clark received his captaincy after the only other similar Ashes average of just 16.14 led the then 2011 captain Ricky Ponting to resign his captaincy to Clark.
Should he have resigned? Should he have resigned? Should Ricky Ponting have resigned?
He might have been pushed as well.
He might have been pushed as well.
His average was worse than Pup, so you never know.
All right, it is time for us to go. Libby Hopwood, sensational in her first showing as a sports reader. We look forward to her company next week when we go through it all again. Rocky, you won't be with us. Rob Popplestone coming back into the show, so back onto the interchange bench for you. Hope you enjoyed the show, everybody. Look forward to your company next week. Yeah, it's time to get those footy tips. So we've brought in the master footy tipper, Mario Borg from Modbury Battery and Electrical. Mario, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about the business first, mate. Modbury Battery and Electrical. How long's it been in South Australia?
It's been in South Australia since 1972. My mother-in-law and father-in-law started it here.
Big family business. Now, obviously, you do the batteries. We can talk about the electrical side of it, that all auto electrics?
Yes, we do all auto electrical. We do a lot of problem solving for dealerships as well, so that they can't find problems with the vehicles. We go through it and look for as well. So.
Is there one car that's a bigger problem than any other?
No, anything that starts with Holden, really.
All right, mate, let's talk about harness racing, because you're an identity down there. You drive as well. How's that going for you?
Yes, it's been going really good. I had a break for a while, but unfortunately a good friend of mine, Pat Caboni, had a bad race incident in October and he can't drive anymore, so he's asked me to step on his horses and drive for him. So,
how did you get into harness driving?
I was through Gator Policino, who is a very close family friend of ours, basically an auntie. And also I worked with Ken Rickard, who had Tan Hill years ago. So I grew up in the game really, and then eventually moved over here.
All right, you've had a couple of good rides in the last few weeks too, haven't you?
Yeah, I got a winner last Monday before at Kapunda. It was a good run by 13 metres, good sit.
All right, any tips coming up? What's the next best tip for the viewer?
Well, hopefully the Octagon can keep going the way he's going and get a good draw, and hopefully he can keep winning.
You get a good feel for the horse? I mean, Octagon obviously got a little bit of love there.
Yeah, he's not a bad horse. He's a smart horse, so he knows basically how to run his race. So you just got to sit behind him, really. You don't have to drive him, he'll drive you.
All right, fair enough. All right, let's get on to the footy tips this week. Round 20, of course. Friday night, Sydney in 5th spot. They're up against Collingwood, sitting in 11th. It's at the SCG.
We'll go Sydney.
Yeah, you're pretty safe on that ground, aren't you? Saturday, your club, Essendon. Not having a great couple of years, unfortunately. They're 15th on the ladder. Adelaide in 9th. Big game for Adelaide to get back into the 8. It's at Etihad.
Hard Essendon, Brain Crows.
How do you see it as an Essendon supporter? I mean, you've been loyal the last couple of years. Can Hurdy keep his job?
Oh, well, I can't see it feasible, but I think he will.
All right, he might get there. North Melbourne sit in 6th spot. St Kilda 13th. They're playing in Tasmania.
Yeah, St Kilda.
The Power had a shocker last week, so they'll be looking to bounce back. GWS, they're in 10th spot. Adelaide Oval, 4 o'clock.
I like the way that GWS are going, so I think GWS are the later.
All right, this is a big game for both clubs at the MCG. Hawthorn in 3rd, up against Geelong in 8th.
Hawthorn will be too strong.
They're going to win it again? Can you see them?
I reckon they'll go close to just about winning it again.
Yeah, they look that way, don't they? Brisbane sit in 18th. They're up against Carlton in 17th. At the Gabba, may decide the wooden spoon.
Yes, and I think Carlton will get the wooden spoon.
Fancy an Essendon man tipping Carlton to lose, eh? That's a surprise. That's not the reason, is it?
It is.
It is, okay. Sunday, Richmond are in 7th spot. Had a shocker last week against the Crows, of course. They want to bounce back. They got the Gold Coast 16th on the ladder to the MCG.
Richmond.
All right, the Western Bulldogs having an outstanding year, sitting in 4th spot. Melbourne in 14th at Etihad.
Way too strong for Melbourne, so we'll go Western Bulldogs.
You been surprised by their form?
I have, actually.
It's been a ripper year for them,
yes,
hasn't it?
they've been really well.
All right, game of the round, no doubt. Fremantle in 1st spot. West Coast in 2nd at Subiaco.
Well, I think that West Coast can probably tough it up with most of them, so I reckon West Coast will beat Fremantle.
All right, Brownlow medal tip. I know you're an Essendon man. You can't tip Joby Watson because he's out for the year. Just on that, before you give us a tip, he copped a lot of criticism. He took a break, went off to England. Personally, I think it was a great decision for him to get away from it all. I think he needed to, but there are a lot of people that were not happy saying the captain of the club should be here. Do you think it was a smart thing to take a break?
I think it's smart. I don't think that, a lot of people couldn't see what he's been under for the last couple of years, so his mind would be fried, really. So I think he just needs to just walk away for a while. Don't blame him.
Mario Borg, our guest tipster. Get down and see him at Modbury Battery and Electrical if you need any auto work done. Time for us to go.
Thank you.